Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Griffin here, and it's now been 2.5 years that I've owned this 2021 Tesla Model 3 in white with the base aero rims, as they call them, and the white faux leather interior, which I personally think was an absolute must to get that spaceship effect. The car's honestly been a fantastic daily driver over the past 24 months, and I've actually put on over 36,000 kilometers on the car, meaning that at this point, I have a very good idea of how the vehicle handles through different seasons, especially considering how harsh Canadian winters can get with -30 temperatures and 5 feet of snow. Drop a like if you understand the struggle. But anyways, I thought it would be fun to make a video now after 2.5 years of Tesla ownership to give you my raw take on the many pros but also the cons of this electric vehicle. And by the way, this video isn't about the technical side of things. This is just a regular guy's take on the car after owning it for a couple years. Alright, so starting off with the pros and what I've loved about being a Tesla owner. First off, this is the standard range plus version, which means that it has a single motor and it's rear wheel drive, giving it roughly 420 kilometers of range and around 300 horsepower. So with that in mind, speed is definitely one of my favorite aspects of this car. No, it's not a Ferrari by any means, but for what it is and its price, it is such a fast car, especially when you're already rolling, say, 40 kilometers an hour. The acceleration is just instant and makes driving really fun. It also has different steering and acceleration modes, which is also really nice depending on what you're feeling, but I pretty much always keep it in sport mode. The second thing I personally really love about the car is its look both inside and out, which of course is going to be subjective to every person, but I personally think it looks really great. It's just the perfect mix between sportiness and just being an incredible everyday car, especially with features such as the entire glass roof, the front headlights, and the white seats. They just give this car a futuristic and classy look at the same time. But again, that's just my thoughts on this. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Do you think the Tesla Model 3 looks good? Oh, and just a fun bit of trivia here. When Tesla designed the car, Elon Musk brought in this guy who's also designed basically every car in the brand's lineup. And for the Model 3, I really think they hit the nail on the head, hence why they've been such a massive success and have been increasingly selling, among other benefits that the car provides. But yeah, overall, I think the car looks fantastic, especially compared to most other EVs, although brands are definitely catching up on that to be successful. They can't launch cars that look like this, but let me know what you think down below. And as sort of a 2.1 part to this, because I didn't want to make this a full point, there's surprisingly more storage in here than what it looks like. You could probably put 4 golf bags in here, and there's storage in the front and under the trunk also. The next feature I really like about this car are the user memory settings. And now this is a feature that has become pretty standard with newer vehicles, especially ones in this price range. But essentially you can have different driver profiles. Example, myself and my girlfriend, those driver profiles are connected with your phone key. So as you approach the car, it'll detect who's there and adjust the seats accordingly. It's just a small little detail, but personally I love it because you don't even need to hit the driver profile screen. It does all of this automatically. Also, you can set a geolocation range. So when I want to park in my garage, well, I have it set so that when I approach my house, it detects where I'm at and it retracts the mirrors automatically. So I can just drive into the garage without incurring the potential of damaging the mirrors. That's just another cool little piece of software. Now, this actually leads me into the next point, and that is that the dashboard and overall simplicity of this car's interior, where everything is concentrated in the middle screen. Now, like I said, this video isn't about all the technicalities of the car and the software, and there's already a ton of videos on YouTube covering all of this in detail, but I had to mention this as it's what makes a Tesla a Tesla. When you first get the car, it takes about a week or so to get used to, and then after that, you never want to go back to these regular dashboards. The storage is fine, the phone chargers are great. Only thing I don't like is you have to go through the dashboard to access the glove box opening, but big deal. Next up, let's speak about the phone key, because that's truly one feature that I absolutely love about this car and wouldn't ever want to get away from with a physical key or fob ever again. Basically, all of us have our phones phones on us at all times. I certainly do. And so having the app itself being the key just makes life so much simpler, where in addition to being able to just walk up to the car to unlock it, you can also unlock and lock from a distance. You can set the cameras, preheat in the winter or pre-cool in the summer, along with a bunch of other great features that you can do all from your phone. Now, I'm not really sure how many other brands have done this yet, but I personally believe this should be top priority for car manufacturers to get with the times. Now, since we're speaking about the phone key, I'll just talk about one of the cons right now. The Bluetooth can be a little bit fucky at times, and it has had some issues where it doesn't recognize my phone and you have to repair them. Kind of a pain and can actually lead to a situation where you're locked out of your car. Basically, this happened to me once where I was at the grocery store close to my house and I didn't have the physical key card that also comes with the car, and it disconnected from my phone. So I went to start the car and it didn't want to start. I basically had to walk home, grab the card, and walk back. Never made that mistake ever again though. And then finally, what I absolutely love about this car is the fact that I never have to go to the gas station to fill up. And in parallel to this, the savings I have experienced on gas, especially considering the price of gas over the past 2 years, which has been astronomical. Now, of course, I have a charger at home, which any Tesla owner would quickly realize isn't an option, especially in Canada, but I never need to charge anywhere, and in the city, it's been great. I'll talk more about energy consumption later on in the video, but it basically costs me $20 a month in electricity to charge it up at home, and I drive quite a bit. Overall, I love the car and so does Sophie, but of course, there are some cons that do need to be mentioned in this video. The first one being that the build quality isn't the best, especially for a car that costs at the very low end $60,000. You'd expect certain aspects to be better. So as you're driving along, now granted, the roads here in Canada are absolutely terrible, especially where I live. It's almost insulting as a taxpayer, but that's a different story altogether. But over time, there's squeaks and rattles that have developed, and now very recently, actually, now I have to bring it into the shop because there's something loose in the suspension or whatnot. So you would think that a car 2 years old would have slightly better build quality. Overall, I would say these are cars designed for California. They're not really great in Canadian winters, but you know, you have to live with that as a Canadian. Next up, as we can see here, the paint has already started chipping away in certain areas, so absolutely garbage paint, especially for a northern climate. And there are also some panel gaps, as you can see right here. This was straight out of the factory. These panel gaps were already there. I had identified them when I picked up the car. And so speaking of the quality, in the summer, it is a great car to drive. It drives really well, it handles well, and so if you do live in a warm climate, you won't have any problems and you'll love it. At least not any of the problems that we'll be speaking about now. But for Canadian climate, in the winter, the range of the battery is absolute trash as well. Like to the point where I thought there was a problem with the car initially. I contacted Tesla and they said that it was normal. They could run a battery diagnostic from a distance on the car and there was nothing wrong with the battery. So that was extremely alarming. Autonomy when it gets really cold is like half. So I've actually had some range anxiety in the past going to Montreal, which is only around 200 kilometers from where I live. It was in a snowstorm and I had 2 kilometers left on the battery's range. At least that's the way it said in the car once I got to a charger in Montreal and I left with a full charge. So it used up 420 kilometers worth of battery in the winter to go around 200 kilometers. With this in mind, if you're, say, a real estate agent or someone who just drives constantly and you don't have time to charge in the winter, I don't know how that would be feasible. Realistically, I always charge at home and do everything in the city mostly. So if in the winter you're doing long distances and you don't have time to stop and charge, I don't see how this would really be feasible, at least right now with the current range. And that actually leads me into a next point that doesn't really impact me, because again, I always charge at home and work from home, but there aren't many Tesla superchargers at all in Canada. In my hometown of Ottawa, there are only 2, and there's 1 million people who live here. Even in Toronto, that's the largest city in Canada, I think there's only around 10 real Tesla superchargers, which really isn't that much. And so with this in mind, if you live even remotely out of the city or need to drive long distances for work, this just wouldn't work well for you, at least once again, not for now. Con number 3, it's an expensive car overall to maintain, and the insurance is pretty expensive as well. So at $60,000 for the cheapest model available in Canada, the Model 3 isn't an inexpensive car by any means, and truthfully, if it wasn't for the incentives from the Canadian and provincial governments, I most likely wouldn't have moved forward with this car in the first place. When purchasing the car, I got the included paint color, which was white at the time, and then did upgrade to the white seats for I think it was $1,200, and then also went with the base rims that also didn't cost anything additional. So the Canadian and provincial government at the time, 2 years ago, provided incentives of $13,000, which I just took and put right down on the car to lower the monthly payments. And now I pay $507 per month for the car, which isn't cheap by any means. In fact, now if you buy this car in Quebec, you even have to pay an additional luxury vehicle tax because it's over $40,000 in value at purchase. That being said, for anyone financing these cars, they do tend to retain their value quite well relative to other car brands. So at least there's that, but even still, it is not an inexpensive car. Oh, and I mentioned briefly insurance. Yeah, insurance is quite expensive and has gone up since I've owned the car. So for the first 2 years of ownership, I was paying $180 a month, tax included. And now in the third year, it's $203 per month. As my insurance broker was explaining to me that there are often total losses these cars because the batteries are fixed on the entire bottom of the car. So even a minor collision can often result in a total loss. And so the insurance companies have caught on and increased premiums. I did want to mention how much it costs in electricity to charge the car though. So here's a quick TikTok that I made about this exact topic. Here's how much my Tesla costs in gas each month. Okay, obviously my Tesla doesn't take gas, but it does take electricity, and electricity isn't free either. So I plug in my car at the house, and that means the electricity for the car gets bundled into everything else. But on the Tesla app, you can see exactly how much the car pulled in juice every single day. Over the past 3 days, it's pulled around 186 kilowatt hours, and my electricity actually costs 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour, meaning in reality, it costs around $14 to charge for the month. And in contrast to this, the gas equivalent would be around $128. Would you buy an electric vehicle? Make sure to let me know in the comments. Overall, the Tesla Model 3 has been a great car. I've thoroughly enjoyed it and would definitely buy again in the future. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please take a second to drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about personal finance and investing. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one.